Hey everyone, if you're looking for the best 5G internet for your home use, there are some really cool tricks here. This is my favorite one for finding out what towers you have around you, what cell carriers are on them, and what bands they have on there, as well as being able to lock onto them. So I do lots of testing with 5G home internet. Here is one of Verizon 5G home gateways. Next to it is a T-Mobile one. I have the AT&T one upstairs as well. And I've done lots of testing on these. This is a Invisagig router or gateway. It's actually not a router. So it basically has a 5G modem inside of it, and then it has a Ethernet. They call it Ethernet sled in it. So it does give you an IP address, but there is no router capability in there. There's no Wi-Fi onto here, so you do have to plug in by Ethernet. But I want to show some of the features that it really does have. I've done some videos on this before, and they do keep improving it. What's really cool about some of these cellular devices is there's a very niche market that people get very hardcore about them, and Invisagig or Wireless Haven is one of those, and they have a lot of support and they're always improving these things. So that's what I want to show today is their latest firmware, and then also talk about one, they have a really good deal going on right now. I think the owner's birthday is in February, so you get some extra money off using a coupon code down below this month. And then also I want to show the different features they have that really do help your ability to get faster signal and more consistent signal versus one of these stock gateways. Alright, so for my tablet, I actually have a Ethernet to USB-C, because this is an Android tablet, adapter, and that allows me to hook into this and get internet through it or log into the interface as well. And so in this case, you might see up at my top, one of my tabs is the Invisagig support page. And that's actually because I had to leverage them just now, because I'm one of those people that forgot the password to log in. Surprisingly, at 11 p.m. on a Friday night, I was able to get a hold of them and very quickly get that remedied. There is, I will have to say that was awesome support, amazing support actually, that I can get that quick of a response. But the downside is, because there is no reset button on here, I have to go to the support to get it. So do know you do want to save your password. I now have that written down more than one place, but I have so many of these routers, I do have trouble keeping track of them. They have different requirements for different characters and whatnot. Anyways, that's my fault. They really pulled through and helped me with that, so I have to give them a shout out for that. So in here on their website, they have a change log, and this latest firmware is v1.0.10. So that was just released at the very end of 2023, and now I'm going in and messing with it to look at what different features it has. I won't go through all the details here. You can obviously, I'll put a link in there and you can read all of these notes if you want to, but they did do a couple key ones, I would say, in there. And one of them is a watchdog, a connection watchdog, which will help adjust your settings or refresh your settings or change some settings based off of if you lose a signal. So you probably experienced it before. Your tower goes down, maintenance, you drop off. If, for example, you had your device locked onto a tower and that tower went down for whatever reason, before it would not switch to a new tower because you had it locked. So this now opens up some options there that you can set based off of what happens to your connection. So that's a really cool feature that they added in there. And then they added more profiles for carriers so that it can auto detect a carrier. For this specific one I have right now, I have a T-Mobile 5G business SIM in it, and so for that one I just plug it in. It automatically picks the APN and it connects. If you had a 5G home internet one, they do have some features that they really lock down, but you can still, with some help or some reading, you can get past that with a Invisagig. And then they cleaned up a couple things to make the verbiage more clear for folks that maybe aren't as familiar. So they did that for both the modem setup prompts as well as the top as far as the internet status. They kind of clarified it a little bit better, so everything is a little bit better laid out on the screen. But then one of the bigger things is here they significantly overhauled this tower scanning and locking, and that's really what I want to show you here. Is it's really neat because it's something that you can't do in a lot of these 5G modems. So let's install this new firmware onto here, and then let's let's show you how that acts. All right, so once you're plugged into it, you can go to https://192.168.225.1, and that'll get to this page here. If you go to this one, you can get your basic information, but to get the full settings, you have to log in. So, this interface is very basic because, like I said, it is literally a modem and then an Ethernet sled. So there's very little components in here. So there's not a full, processor in there like a router would have dedicated to routing traffic and whatnot. So all this stuff is very small as far as file size goes on there, and then so therefore it's very basic and simple. Some people would say that's a pro, some say it's a con, but you have to get a little bit used to typing in your choices and hitting enter, and that's how you navigate through this menu. So here I will go ahead and log in. So I hit my 3 and I hit enter, and then it gives me a password prompt, so I type it in. Alright, so then I logged in, and now you can see I get 13 different options instead of just the previous 3. So now I can go in here and I can look at some different things. Now for me, really this is the older firmware. You can see that at the top it's version 1.0.6. So it's actually several versions old. So I really need to update that. So I'm just going to go in here and I can look at number 10. There is my update check. So it'll automatically go and check the internet for a update. I'll say yes, but it is going to go and search, and it found that there's an update, so now it's going to download that update automatically and install it for me. Alright, so it went ahead and downloaded and went through the installation setup, and now it looks like it's going to do the reconfiguration or rebooting of it. So I gotta give it just a second here. Alright, there we are. We are logged back in, and you can see at the top now that the update has applied and I have the new latest firmware. So alright, so now I want to head up to my third floor loft where I get the best signal. That's where I normally keep these 5G gateways. And up there I can get at least a few different towers that I can connect to on multiple different carriers. And that's what I want to show you is how cool this is doing that search. Alright, so what I've done is I've come up to the third floor. I've taken the SIM card out of the Invisagig actually, and then I plugged it in and started it up. Now I will go ahead and log into the device, and then I will do the scan. Okay, so now that I've logged in, you can see that the local tower search is number 6. So I'll just go in here and I type in 6. Now it's going to give me some warnings or information. Now what's really cool is that it shows you can actually do up to 20 LTE tower cell locks. So remember that what it's actually locking to is not necessarily a specific cell tower, but is locking to a specific cell, which is just a term they use for a specific antenna basically on that tower. So a tower will have several cells, and you might want to connect to several of them. And for LTE, you can actually lock up to 20 of them, but for 5G SA cells, you can only lock to one at a time. So that's just something to know. If you're locking to 5G SA, then it would only be a specific one, and anytime you try to lock to a different one, it will override it. And then here it'll tell you that if you have a SIM inserted, you might need multiple scans, 2 or 3 scans, to get all the available cells. I don't know exactly why that is. I'm sure there's some kind of technical reason, but it tells you for the best results, if you're not looking to lock, then scan it without a SIM card and probably write down or take screenshots of all the different cells that it's saying it can pick up. So let's go ahead and click yes and proceed. And then this is where you have the option to do LTE or 5G SA. So I'm going to start with LTE just to show you what I have, and then we will see what options we have on the 5G as well. Now here it tells you that the network mode has to be changed. So right now I think my 5G is enabled, and it's telling it has to be disabled. So if I click yes, there is going to go ahead and update that for me and disable the 5G. But now I have to go back in and actually click on 6 and tell it to redo the tower lock LTE. And now we can go ahead and say enter. So now it's going to actually start the LTE tower scan for me. And what's really cool about this is that it goes across all the different carriers. So it doesn't matter
Like, in fact, they don't have a SIM card in at all, right? So it's going to search for T-Mobile. It'll search for Verizon, AT&T, Dish Network. I think that covers pretty much all the main ones in the US. And then there's other ones like that are out there as far as their MVNOs. You know, if you have Visible or Mint, they actually use one of these networks typically. So here you can see I get lots of options, like I said, and this is going to be lots of different towers that are actually going to have that. So I have at least two, I think probably three cell towers around that I would say I easily get signal with just the unit sitting here. I do have some waveform external antennas I could plug it in and probably even get more towers, but this is a good listing here of my LTE options. And so what's really cool about this is they've updated this over time. So now it not only tells you what the carrier is in plain text, but it also has color coded and they're organized. So this is really cool to see this in plain daylight. You can see that on the LTE side, at least, you know that my strongest option is a Verizon Band 5, but you can see that I get some good T-Mobile signal, and I call Sprint T-Mobile as well for that matter. But then you can see on AT&T that I'm getting pretty poor signal strength here, but my quality is decent. So without locking, I'm just going to go back, and I'm going to do the 5G one. To do that one, I'm going to have to change the network mode. I can either do that manually myself here by going to 4 and changing the mode. And I can tell it to do the 5G only. And now I can go back into the tower search by going to 6. And again, now we'll do the 5G SA. So I'm going to hit 2. And now we hit search. All right, there we go. Now, what's really neat about this is I did not even know that I had a Dish network signal here. Now, I heard about Dish getting into cellular, and so that's what I think is really cool about this is that it makes you aware of services that maybe are starting to come on board. Maybe they're not advertising it, but it makes you aware of options that are out there. So here, this shows you that I have Verizon and T-Mobile for sure. And then I have Dish, but what is funny is that I do have AT&T here as well, but it doesn't have a 5G SA option. It's a 5G NSA. Okay, and so if I wanted to lock to one of these specific cells, first I need to have my SIM card in there, but then I would pick a number of 1 through 7 in this case. And now obviously you have to be a little bit, paying attention because you can't pick a carrier cell that you don't have a SIM service to. So if I have a T-Mobile SIM in there, I need to make sure I pick on this chart at least either a 3, a 4, or 5 to make sure that I have a tower that locks to a SIM. Now, if you get one wrong, it doesn't matter. You can clear them. So it's not like you can't log in and fix that. If that's the case, you do not need to have internet access in order to log into the Invisagig, but just something to pay attention to. So on here, you can see on the far right is a tower ID. Now, you might obviously be curious where exactly is that tower. Well, the easiest way to get that is to go to cellmapper.net. And then inside cellmapper.net, you would first pick a carrier. And then once you had a carrier, it would show you this map and it shows you all these towers that are out there. And then you can actually click search in here and you can type in this tower number from the Invisagig right here to tower search and hit find. And then it shows you that I got a result. So that means that it found it. Now, you do need to make sure that you're in the right carrier. And then if I click on it, it's going to zoom into it and show me exactly where that tower is. And so that's something that is really helpful for you to pick up. Now, if you don't get the tower that you think you want, then you could go into Cell Mapper and pick out one of these, and then you can go into that information there and get the PCI and information, and you can type that in. Or the thing that's probably easier or maybe to do is actually bring the Invisagig with you in your car, something closer to that tower where it will pick it up easier. And then that would be another way you could lock onto it. But you can also do it manually just by typing in the information if you have it. And you can get it from cellmapper.net.
All right, I'll show you a couple other things while I'm back down here, and that is that you can change this guy to 5G standalone only mode, so you can actually connect to 5G SA signal with it, which you cannot select manually with these provided gateways that they give you. And then they have band lock, so you can, if you always have a band, your gateway flips and it goes to B66 or B2 or B4 or whatever it may be, and you always notice it's slow, and maybe you have to restart your stock gateway to get it to go to a better band. With this one, you can lock them to a specific band. So that's a great feature of these types of devices. We did the local tower search already that we talked about. Carrier profile selection APM, so you can go in there and you might have to do this for some of the different profiles. You will have to tell it what the APN is, or you can do automatic. So this is where you could go in here and like hit 2 for a manual one, and then you can go in there and actually type in what the APN should be. Okay, update check, we've already done that, and factory defaults, we don't want to do that, but if you did, you could do that here. Okay, so next there's the local IP and multiple modem setup. So local IP, that 192.168.225.1, you can change that in here in the settings. You can say, hey, I want it to still do IP pass-through, but I want a different IP address to log into this device, maybe because you want it to be the same or different than your existing network. By default, it's going to do the IP pass-through to whatever device is hooked up to the unit. It's going to pass through that. It's not necessarily a public IP address with cellular, but it's going to give the WAN side of the cellular modem. That IP address will be passed on to whatever's connected to it. So when I say that it's not always a public one, is T-Mobile especially is probably one of the worst ones from a CG NAT or carrier grade NAT. So even if this isn't adding a layer of NAT, the T-Mobile network oftentimes does, unless you have a specific static IP address, which you can get for like $3 a month with a business one, or if you used some type of VPN, sometimes supports you kind of tunneling through their CG NAT setup. Next is text messages. So obviously you might have noticed on some of these, especially the like T-Mobile ones with the screens, you might get a text message, but you can't do much maybe other than read it on there. With this one, you can also get access to those text messages in here, so I can check them, I can delete them, or I can return the main menu. I have none on them in here. I don't think there's a way to reply to them on here. I think you can just read them. Alright, this watchdog and scheduled restart. So you might want to restart your device, daily, weekly, whatever, and you can set that up in here. And then also the watchdog is basically monitoring your connection. So if we go into this one here, we go to 12, and then here's our options. If I go into connection watchdog, I can click here, and now you can tell it how often to check to make sure your internet is live. So it's 5, 15, or 30 minutes. And if you do that, all it's going to do is basically take off any tower locks that are on there, and it will restart the device if it still doesn't connect to a new signal. So that's what the watchdog does. I think it's a great feature, but we're going to return back to the main menu, and we're going to go back into there to show you the scheduled restarts that you can also pick. So we go to 2 now, and now you can pick the interval amount, so hourly, daily, or weekly. So if you wanted it to be weekly, for example, we can go in here and hit 3, and then we can pick what day of the week we want. Let's say I want it like Sunday nights or something, and then now I can tell it what hour and minute I wanted it to do, right? So that one I could specify, and this is I guess important to note, it looks like it is UTC time, so you need to know what your time zone is relative to UTC. Obviously that's an easy Google search, but then you would put in whatever number that is in there. So let's just do this. Alright, so now mine is set up for that. Alright, so then this dark mode toggle, that is not the evil side of the Invisagig. That is actually just changing the screen here. So instead of the white background that you see with a lot of white light on your face, dark mode will reboot it and have a black background with a white font. So for some people that might be more pleasing on the eyes, and so that's what that one is. So that's really the features. I'm glad they're adding more. They have a good user base and good support system that's set up to do this. Okay, so I do like a lot of things about the Invisagig. I think it does have a appeal as far as being a very simple device that is focused on getting a 5G signal with good speed, and then putting it out by Ethernet only to your own setup, so you can plug this into your own router or whatnot. Now, I think it can only be purchased from two locations. One is Wireless Haven directly, which is who owns the company, and then Chester Tech Repairs is another vendor out there that sells them, and now both of them give a really good support. I already mentioned that I got support tonight actually from Invisagig directly, but Chester Tech Repair also has that kind of support. When you buy products from them, they have a live chat that you can get a hold of them pretty much instantly, and it's pretty cool there. And so if you use my coupon code, you will get a special discount on buying this Invisagig through Chester Tech Repair. Extra special for the month of February, and then it gets a little bit less special, but still unique for the rest of the time. So make sure you do that, and then of course hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Consider watching more, and consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. So thanks, and take care.